Hey guys, I've had a lot of people want me to do an update on the Godsey case. I've done a little bit. I've done a video on it. So there's some new information that's been released, and it's took me a while to gather a lot of the information I have. There is another individual that is a friend of the family that is waiting on some more information to come in that he's going to send to me. The family, I guess, is not believing what the police are telling them, also, my understanding. So I'm waiting on him. He's supposed to be sending me some information, some, I guess, interviews and stuff. So if I do get that, it'll be a 3. It'll be a part 3. I've had a lot of people questioning the Godsey case, and I'm getting a lot of emails, a lot of questions. That video is probably pulling more questions right now than any video that I have out. So I'm just going to go with the new stuff I have, and we're going to talk about some things that some people, I think, are either misunderstood me in the first video, or they're not watching the full video, and they're missing key details, just causing them to make comments, and the comments that I've been trying to correct, but it's hundreds of comments I'm getting, so it's hard to correct each individual comment. So we're going to try to do that here. A lot of people in the area that Corey was found dead at say they've been hearing this disturbing howl. A lot of these people that's been contacting me are residents of the area, the town, live there all their lives. Just like I've lived in this area all my life. I know all the sounds of the woods. I know what the animals are. Something out of the ordinary, you pick that up. It can be something small as, a smell. But what they're hearing is a sound that none of them's heard, okay? And if you remember in the first video, there was a gentleman that had heard a disturbing sound. He reported it to the police, and then later on recanted his story, okay? Now we have, in 2019, a gentleman reported a disturbing sound that he heard coming from a section of the park, okay? He reported it to the police department. The police department went out, checked it out, said that it was wolves. It sounds to me, and excuse my French, but the police department is hell-bent on making this a dog. Okay, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But anyways, they keep hearing this disturbing noise. Okay, February. Llamas on a farm attacked, and 2 donkeys 5 miles away. Some sheep were also killed. Okay, something's killing animals. It's killing donkeys. It's killing sheep. It's pulling their face off, their tongues out, their lips off. And some of these animals were even alive, flopping around. So, I mean, it's just massacring whatever it finds. Police Department Wildlife said they have no idea what killed the animals. DNA samples were taken. Listen closely, because some people didn't get this. It is canine in nature, 98%, okay? We'll talk more about DNA in a minute. Okay, investigation ruled out dogs, regular dogs that would have done this attack. This is where they kind of backtrack. They ruled out dogs due to the territorial nature of llamas. Llamas were attacked and killed, but they also stated, wildlife, that llamas are very territorial and can kill dogs, wolves, and coyotes easily. So they don't believe that dogs, coyotes, or wolves would have even been able to kill the llamas. A trooper at the scene made this statement. He said, "Something is out there." When he was asked what, he said, "I don't know." Wildlife stated, dogs, coyotes, mountain lions. Now they're talking about Mr. Godsey, the child. The child weighed approximately 100 pounds. Wildlife said coyotes, mountain lions cannot carry 100 pounds of dead weight up the mountain he was found, let alone in the rain. The exact measurement of his body up the mountain was 1,500 feet. They said for sure they could not do that. But the DNA samples found on the child were canine in nature with no particular species named. We'll talk about that here in a minute too. This is the update. Kentucky State Police determined that a 13-year-old Corey Godsey was killed by a pack of dogs. Okay, we're back to the dogs again. And the reason they're saying dogs, as I think, is two reasons. Number one, DNA says canine. Number two, they don't want to cause mass hysteria and panic in the town. I believe they already know what's doing this. Multiple dogs on an old mine site were gathered up in the area. You remember we talked about that in the first one, okay? Now, here's the weird part. They stated that the dogs were took to the animal shelter, okay? DNA samples were taken, etc. DNA specimens show several of the dogs matched DNA found on the victim. Okay, I called a friend of mine. He's a detective, and he does a lot of cases. And he gave me the rundown on DNA to hopefully better explain this to you guys. I had a guy, man, he just went on and on me about, oh, it was dogs. They found, canine DNA. It's a closed case, that's what it is. And me and him went back and forth for a little while, and he was telling me, well, it could have been a bobcat, could have been a bear. It couldn't have been because the DNA is canine. The police department agree. The coroner agrees. The family agrees. There's no disagreement in it being canine DNA. Now here's where the DNA makeup, this is where it gets tricky. This is how he explained it to me. 98% of the DNA found on this child was canine, okay? But it does not rule out that it was not a dog man or a werewolf. And the reason being, and this is where it gets tricky, 98% of the DNA was canine, but he said this is what you have to look at. No 100% sample is ever going to be 100% DNA. And the reason being, he said, is because we can take DNA from a species and we can tell what species it is, but we cannot say that's a lab. A lab, Cocker Spaniel, Poodle. We know it's a dog, but we can't determine the other percentage to name the exact bloodline of that dog. And one of the reasons that, because it is canine, that it means it was not dogs, or it does mean that it was dogs, is because the 98% of the DNA would match a wolf or a dog or a coyote, would all match that same DNA. So if a werewolf or a dogman were to have attacked the child, it would have had 98% canine DNA. Now people's going to say, but the DNA is a dog. Right. But you can take a wolf, a big huge wolf, and he's going to be over 98% canine DNA. That wolf's DNA is going to match a little bitty chihuahuas. The species are different, but it's the same DNA. So if the werewolf, being canine, lycanthropy, he would show the same 98%, but we're lacking, which is the unknown that they come up with, 98% and unknown DNA. The unknown is the other percent that would link it to a dogman or a werewolf. I hope that makes sense. That's the best way I know how to do it. He said it was the easiest way he knew how to explain it to me. Just because it says it's canine DNA does not mean it could not be a dogman or a wolfman. They would carry 98% of the same, but of different species. That last 3% can be a major game changer. I hope that helps. I had to take a learning course in that also. The authorities also stated they did not know what type of dogs were involved, But they went up to the mining hole and found several packs of dogs at which they had shot, and when they were asked what they'd done with the dogs, they said the dogs were left. In a later statement, they said the dogs were all taken to an animal shelter, and I know the reason they done that because it's illegal to shoot them and leave them, because if they were contaminated, carrying diseases and all that, that's against wildlife's own rules. So they kind of went back and recanted on their story. So many holes. One statement, they stated that they shot the dogs. In another statement, they were euthanized. In another statement, they were taken to an animal shelter. There's too many holes to know what they done with the wild dogs they found up there. If they even found any wild dogs. Maybe they put that story together to ease everybody's mind that we found what we went up there before. But if they did that, they've also told the community to stay vigilant and hyper aware in the evenings, at night and dusk, and to watch their crops, because people's crops, I guess, were getting ate. That's kind of weird. They said corn had been getting ate off the stalks, and they're telling people to wash their gardens and stuff. So I guess they don't want you to go out and pick your garden early in the morning, because even though they took care of what's out there, something may come up and still eat you. The autopsy report, State Medical Examiner's Office in Frankfurt, confirmed the cause of death, and the initial determination was this could have been done by dogs. Could have been done by dogs. But a trooper stated, the animal that done this has not been named. No specific species has been labeled, and that the case has been left open. The case is not closed still to this day. And a lot of people ask me, they're like, why didn't they close the case? And it's simple. If you have an open investigation, people cannot ask for information on it. So they leave it open. That's how they keep you from getting information. The authorities released a statement. They said this was a terrible attack, and they called it, listen to this, an accident. This was an accident. How is this an accident? This isn't an accident. You know, it's... The police came right out, and this is what really threw me. The police made the statement. They said it was a domesticated dog. That's what the police said. Medical examiner said no specific animal could be labeled because there wasn't enough proof. That's your medical examiner. Sees millions of cases. He knows a dog bite from any other kind of bite or anything. Trooper Sims of the State Highway Patrol there. Animal attack labeled non-specific. But the city police are quick to want to call this a domesticated dog. 911 has received multiple calls for that howl that everybody hears. Police department are blaming that on the wolves. People in the area should remain hyper vigilant, especially at night, but no immediate threat was released by the state troopers. So the state police know more than the city police, or at least the state police are at least telling you guys to be safe. They're not just leaving it as it was a domesticated animal, we took care of it. They're still telling you to be careful. Detective Robert Dials says the case is still open and the case is still pending. The family stated they don't believe it was a dog or coyote after all the information had been received, and they know more than we do, I'm sure, about the case. So the family don't even believe it. There's a lot of holes in this, guys, that I've been seeing. And I hope that kind of shows you all something, because, I mean, I've got people calling in saying, oh, it could have been a bear, it could have been a bobcat, it could have been... No, the DNA was canine. Couldn't have been a bear, couldn't have been a coyote, couldn't have been a tiger, couldn't have been a centaur. It was canine. The other 3% makes you wonder what kind of canine. Because if you got officers stating at some of these attacks that the bites look like a shark attacked somebody and a shark took bites out of somebody, it's not what a dog does. I wanted to get this information out to you guys. I thought it was important. If you live in that area, be safe. There's something still running around up there in those mines. I've talked to a lot of people and they said there's no way you can search all that. They said there's no way to even know what's up in them mines. I've never been there, but they say there could be stuff down in their bones, bodies, whatever, and we'd never know it. So just be careful. Keep your head on a swivel. Watch what you're doing when you're outside in the evenings, mainly evenings, nights, and early mornings. That's mostly when these animals, I believe, like to hunt. Don't let them lure you out to the woods by making noises or mimicking things. And just be vigilant and carry a gun. Call the police if you hear something around your house, even if they're not believing you. Call them out, call them out, call them out. At least get it on paper, get it reported. That way, if you do have to do something, it's reported that you have called. I appreciate all the call-ins I've had on this. People want me to do a second one. I hope I've given you all what you've wanted, and I appreciate each and every one of you watching. God bless, be safe, and until the next one.